In this video, we're going to talk about two of the tools in the toolbox, the file inventory tools, as we call them. First one is the EDI File Inventory. This was actually the first utility we ever wrote it for ourselves, and it was also the first tool that sort of launched the whole toolbox concept. The concept behind this particular tool is I got some stuff in a network folder and I want to know what it is. So you point the tool at the folder, you select the inventory button, and what it's going to do is going to look at all the files in that folder, and if it's going to open each one of them, and whichever ones are part of the HIPAA EDI set, it's going to report back what you have. So let's take a quick look at how it works. Okay, we're looking at the EDI utility toolbox. I'm going to select the first button, the EDI File Inventory button, and it's going to launch that particular tool. For purposes of keeping the screen clean, I'm going to close the main window. All right, now this is the interface. First thing you want to do is point it at a folder. Show me what I got in a folder, the folder being anything that you happen to have access to. It could be a network folder, it could be something on your local drive. I'm selecting something on my local drive here. All of these search utilities that have the search option give you the ability to search subdirectories by default. Sometimes that's a great thing, so you can find everything, but sometimes, particularly if really large structures are in play, this might be too much. You may want to do these one at a time. You know, if you've got a big network folder with 10 years worth of data out there in different folders, this may not be a good choice for you. So in this case here, I selected a folder where I happen to have a bunch of different EDI files stored. I will talk about some of these other options in a second. I'm going to do a straight search and click the button. I just went to that folder, opened up every file to see what the contents were, and it found 54 of them that were actually part of the HIPAA EDI set. And for those 54 files, it listed them for me. And you can scroll down here. And it also tells me a little bit about them. It tells me the file name, of course, but it also tells me the type of file. And it does make a distinction between 837 professional and 837 institutional. It will tell me the version number, 4010, 5010, or what have you. It also will tell me a couple pieces of information, including the date of the file, about what I'm looking at to help me sort of identify it. Now, once I've got this list here, I can sort this list by any of these column headings. And one click for ascending order, a second click will give you descending order. I can also use some of these filters up here. For example, I can limit it by file type. Maybe I only care about my 835 remittance files. And I can select that, and all I see are 835s. You can further refine by using any one or more of these filters. So I can select a certain ETIN. I can select a certain provider ID. I can select a file mask. I only care about the EDI files that are 835s and start with ED. So a little wildcarding there. And sure enough, that's the 4 I found. I can clear this list and start over, of course. I can search for, in the case of remittances only, I can search for all or a non-zero or 0/none, which would give me this first file here, which is a 0 paid 835 file. When it comes to 835s in particular, or 820s, the two remittance type files that have dollars attached to them, you can select those, right click, and you can get a total amount. So that will tell you the total amount of the file remittances. You can also save this list to your clipboard. You can save it to a text file, or you can print it to paper. And why would you do that? Well, you might want to use this as a cash posting cover sheet, for example. So your department posted, you know, all of these 835s today. I can copy them to a clipboard, dump them into an email, and send that out as an alert, or save it to paper, or what have you. Furthermore, if you happen to also have our EDI Reader tool, you can take any one of these files, and if you happen to have them both running, both products running, they will integrate with each other. So it actually will launch that particular file in the Reader. If you're not familiar with the Reader, you can go back to the YouTube channel and check some of other videos on the Reader itself. Next is what we like to call the twin sister, if you will, or the almost a fraternal twin sister, or close cousin, the 835 inventory. Very similar tool. It is same concept. I got some stuff in a folder, but this time it's looking specifically, I got some 835s in a folder, and I want to know a little bit more information about the 835s. So I can do the same thing. You're going to point the tool at the folder, and you're going to see exactly which 835s are in that folder. But plus, it gives you a little more information, actually a lot more information than the basic file inventory did. There's a couple key differences. First of all, 835 files only. Doesn't matter if they're 4010 or 5010 or whatever the next standard is. But it also gives you visibility into each payee in the file, as opposed to information on the file in total. And also gives you more information to identify those payees. There's also a spot to look at the PLB segments, and otherwise known as remit level adjustments. So let's take a quick look at that. Okay, back to the actual product. We're going to select this button here. And we are once again going to close the main window. Now it's a little bit different because there's a little more functionality in this particular window. It's a little larger, among other things, and we've changed a little bit on this one about how the filters work. It's a little more comprehensive. But once again, we're gonna point to a folder. I will point to, oops, a little far. Well, I'm going to point to the exact same folder we were looking at in the first inventory. Once again, the search subdirectories option is there. I have different filtering options, which we'll come back to, including the mask. And inventory, it's going to do the same thing, except this time it's digging deeper. So I'm only seeing 835s populated in my list, and I'm going to see a couple things that are a little bit different. I only found 17. It was 54 files on the first search because there were other types in there, but out of that same folder, only 17 of the 54 were actually 835 files. So we'll see the file name, we're going to see the amount, the method, and I'll get to this in a second. So you're seeing different data here, a little deeper, a little more on the payee, a little more on the payer. And you'll see this first one here in blue says 5010 single 835 sample for $39,000. It's in blue. Down here you can see here's the name of the file, and it's telling you there's one payee in the file. The next one on the list, also in blue, called multi-payee sample. If you look down on the bottom, it has 19 payees in the file. So what you'll also see here listed, that same file name is repeated, not coincidentally, 19 times. And it's in gray. So what that's telling you is the blue is telling you the first time it sees a file, it will put the file name in blue. And next time it sees a file name, a new file name, it's in blue. But when it sees multiple payees inside the same file name, it's showing them to you in gray, just so you get a little visual cue that all these gray ones are part of that first one there. But what we're really looking down here is we're not looking at files so much as we're looking at individual remittances that may or may not be inside of one file. In this case, we have a mix, a single 835 payee file and a one with a bunch. And actually, there's probably one in this list that's got some crazy number, like 118 right there. So you see they're out there. Same basic functionality. If we double click one of these, it'll launch it in the reader, but we've got a little different filtering ability, a little more powerful. So we can actually pick things out of this list to filter on. So let's suppose you want to find a check based on a check number, and it's buried in the middle of a large file, and it's buried in the middle of a large folder full of thousands of files, and you want to find a check number. The check number is typically found in the reference ID. Sometimes it's ETF number. Let's suppose that you know you got a manual check or a paper check as opposed to an EFT. So we're going to pick reference ID, and the check number I'm looking for is 7821724. And I'm going to apply my filter, and boom, it found it in the middle of this file here. And it was a giant file, 118 different checks or EFTs in the file, which was inside of our folder full of 54 files. So we found this check that quick. And we could also do things like, let me clear that. You can also do the same thing by looking for it by payer or by payee or by address. So it really gives you a lot more information on finding an 835, a piece of data in an 835 file. Last thing this thing will do here is we can also take a look at the adjustments, or the PLB, the remit level adjustments, or the PLB segments in these files. And this is one of the few places, probably the only place, that the EMS products actually generate information in a tree format. And you can collapse or expand the tree at will for all. Basically, it's going to show you the payment, the payer, the payee, address, help you find what you're looking for. And of course, the file is at the root of the tree in blue. Let's say I just want to see my adjustments. You can click adjustments only, and it will only explode the tree to show you the adjustments. This particular file here, for this, this file here, for this payee, or the Happy Home Healthcare Adjunct, there are two different pretty good sized adjustments here with a forwarding balance qualifier on it. You can save this to a file that will actually save it in Excel format, and it will collapse the tree and put these out in a record format. So if you ever wanted to export all your PLB adjustments so you can analyze them or put them somewhere else, record layout is the best way to do that. And saving it as a file will let you do that. And that, my friends, are the EDI inventories.